Today on Panther TV, a South Shore native shares his story about the tragic loss of his home in the California fires.
We take a look at the impacts of the short-lived TikTok ban and why some are still worried about what is to come.
And they've been teammates for 4 years, and now they'll be teammates for 4 more. We'll talk to 2 Plymouth South athletes who are taking their talents to Stonehill next year. Good morning, Plymouth South. Welcome to Panther TV. I'm Caitlin Langone.
And I'm Sarah Cicchetti. Less than 2 months into 2025, California residents are still reeling from the destruction caused by a series of wildfires in early January.
The Palisades fire was the largest of the fires in the Los Angeles area in January, burning more than 23,000 acres, destroying nearly 7,000 structures and leaving 12 people dead.
One man who lost his home in Pacific Palisades has deep ties to the South Shore.
In the first part of our team coverage on the fires, reporter Elizabeth Nyberg shares his story.
Marshfield native Tom Nicholson has called the Los Angeles area home for more than 20 years. But earlier this year, he narrowly escaped as he tried to save his Pacific Palisades home from being destroyed by a wildfire. On the morning of January 7th, Tom Nicholson was alerted to a nearby fire by his neighbors. For Californians, this isn't too unusual, but something to keep an eye on and prepare for.
My neighbor had called me and told me that there was a fire nearby, and so he said we'd meet out on the street and take a look.
As the day went on, the fire moved closer and the winds picked up significantly.
All of a sudden, around 3:30, the winds picked up, and I stopped hearing planes. And that started concerning me as I saw the fire coming behind me. And at that point, I thought this is starting to increase in danger. We had an evacuation order at that point. I went downstairs and I started packing photo albums because now I'm thinking, okay, I might be leaving and this fire might get close.
Tom went back inside to gather a few more belongings, but the situation quickly became very frightening.
At that point, it had turned into almost night outside. The smoke got so thick, and these embers that looked like hail-sized molten balls of fire just started raining down, blowing around, blowing sideways, collecting in piles on the street, and everything started catching fire. And all of a sudden I felt in a lot of danger. And I jumped in the car. We helped a couple neighbors out, to elderly neighbors that hadn't left yet, and I was one of the last to leave. And as I left, I turned and I saw the back of my house on fire, and my heart just kind of broke because it's not like you think of, oh, your house is on fire, fire trucks are coming. There were no fire trucks. There was nothing. There was no planes. There was no helicopters. There was just thick wind. It was night in the middle of in the late evening. It was just complete black night, even though the sun was still up.
Tom and his neighbors made it to the beach parking lot at the bottom of their street, where they watched the fire overtake their community.
At one point, I stopped and I looked at my security cameras. And at that point, I saw the house completely engulfed in flames, and it was very, very heartbreaking to witness your house burn down right before I lost the security camera feed.
As the flames descended upon the Pacific Coast Highway, Tom and his neighbors had to find their way out through the thick smoke.
And I followed a fire truck out, and if I hadn't followed the fire truck, I may have gotten stuck in this firestorm of like tornadoes and things on fire. But I was able to follow a fire truck out of danger. And the only reason I could see is just the LED strobe lights on the fire truck.
In the following 24 hours, Tom was unsure what, if anything, was left of his home, but he had to know for sure. Sneaking his way back into the neighborhood, pretending to be a member of the media, he was able to see the devastation for himself. But luckily, a few cherished memories were found in the rubble.
We found my Super Bowl rings from high school, which is something I was really wanted to find. And I actually have those. These were really charred, but these are the rings that were saved out of there. Now, there's not a lot of actual monetary value to these things, but they mean a lot to me, obviously, and also at a time when we've lost pretty much everything that we own, having a small win felt really good. And having something that we could take away from that. You know, this is how we got engaged, and this brick meant a lot to us. So to pull anything out of the rubble was a miracle in itself. Like I said, small wins felt really good.
Even in tragedy, Californians find themselves appreciating the smallest positives to get through and look forward to the future.
My hopes are high, and you have to just put one foot in front of the other. There's obviously devastating loss of everything I own, but my father just passed away about 6 weeks ago, and I think that has given me perspective on the value of physical possessions. I mean, this stuff is nice, and there's things that have sentimental value, but in the end, you can rebuild, and there's some silver linings. There's a chance to start over. There's a chance to rebuild better.
Although there are countless things that will never be replaced from the wildfires, the memories will live forever. Locals are rising from the ashes to stay resilient and rebuild their communities one step at a time. Reporting for Panther TV, I'm Elizabeth Nyberg.
Thousands of structures, including homes and businesses, were damaged or destroyed in the fires. This includes schools.
Here's Panther TV's Ava Davy Bissett with more on how this is impacting high school students as our team coverage of the fires continues.
For students at Palisades High School, the aftermath of the fires is bringing back memories of COVID times. Damage to the school of nearly 3,000 students in the heart of Pacific Palisades has forced the student body into remote learning once again. We talked to 2 freshmen at the school about the impact of the fires on their lives. While wildfires aren't new to Southern California, but the impact from the fires this January is something Sophia and Shauna have never experienced.
I lived there from ages 4 to 14, so kind of basically grew up there. My school's there, neighbors, family, friends, theater, like my entire life's there. We've had probably like 3 or 4 fires before. I've evacuated multiple times. So when we got the warning, we weren't worried because like it's happened so many times. You just like go away for like a couple nights, gotta stay at a hotel, come back, it's fine. This fire, we all went to a hotel. At the hotel, we found out from our neighbors. So from their Ring camera, they watched their house burn down, our next door neighbors. So then they said that our house is gone.
Along with Sophia's home, the fire also did significant damage to her school, Palisades High School. Visitors to the Pali High website are greeted with a solemn message announcing the campus is closed and a link to a fundraising site to help with rebuilding costs. Until the school can be reopened, students are back to learning online.
It's kind of weird because during winter break, we were all like, oh, I don't want to go back to school. Like, I wish we could get more winter break. And then it happened and we got like indefinite winter break. And we were like, no, I would do anything to go back to school now and to see my friends.
As of right now, students don't know when things will go back to normal. Remote learning is again becoming their new normal. And unlike COVID, many of the students no longer have homes and are now living in hotels or with family outside of LA and may not come back. The girls tell us what they miss most is the sense of community found in the Palisades, which will never be the same.
Yeah, living there comes with the small shops and the businesses and seeing your friends and going to school super close. You know, so even if you did rebuild all of those places that are so special, that's what makes
never be the same. Yeah.
That's what.
But despite the hardships of what high school students are facing, they are doing everything they can to remain positive despite the tragedies that have occurred.
It's kind of just been like very up and down. Like some days I will just be like a complete wreck crying, like, because my life will probably never be the same from this. Other times I'm like, oh, it was just objects. It was just a house. Doesn't matter that much. When our house first burned down, we didn't like sit around crying the entire day. Like the next day we were on Zillow looking for houses. We were calling our insurance. Like, don't sit around and in your grief. You gotta keep moving forward.
I think it's really special though how Los Angeles is kind of like banded together to support the Palisades. I think it really shows like that through all this chaos and like disaster, we can still be there for each other and we can still show up. And I think that's really special.
Despite the hardships we've seen due to the California fires, we've seen how people in the community band together to push through these hard times and support one another. Reporting from Panther TV, I'm Ava Davy Bissett.
Thank you for those reports, Elizabeth and Ava. Definitely a very tragic situation and one no one ever wants to face.
Absolutely. We wish them well as they work to get their lives back on track.
Now, to some lighter news. While it was only gone for 14 hours, the TikTok ban last month stirred up a lot of discussion from influencers to high school students who felt life would never be the same without their favorite app.
Panther TV's Abby Marr and Logan Kavicki asked around to see how students and teachers at our school were personally affected by the TikTok ban.
On January 19th, one of America's favorite apps, TikTok, was banned for security.
While this has been talked about as a possibility for years, nobody thought it would really happen until the days leading up to January 19th.
As the deadline loomed, some of our favorite influencers were seen freaking out on the app, and even in tears over its end.
But how can a social media app really impact people that much? We asked around to find out.
TikTok over the last several years has become the most popular app in America, but government concerns over the app's security, privacy breaches, and ownership led to the app being banned on January 19th. For high school kids, that meant a majority of us lost a huge part of our morning routine, scrolling through the app.
I was really upset about TikTok being ended. It's a big form of entertainment for me, and I knew I was personally affected when the day after I woke up and started doing homework instead of going on my phone. So Ella and I actually communicate through TikToks. So right now we have about an 80-day streak going. We send TikToks back and forth throughout the day to communicate. So when TikTok was banned, we were really worried for our streak. Like, what would we do without our TikTok?
Plymouth South's vocal and theater director, Jason Luciana, says that the TikTok ban, though not affecting him personally, affected many aspects of the world we are living in today.
As a performing arts teacher and also as friends with a lot of creators that use the app, when you look at the contributions that TikTok makes to creatives, to the art world, to the music world, to the performing arts, it's really at this point, we're kind of past the point of no return, where if you shut it down, you're basically forcing thousands and thousands of creators to shut down their business.
The good news for the TikTokers and their fans is that the ban was suspended for 3 months. But it goes without saying that just a 14-hour ban caused a lot of distress. As we scrolled before the ban was set in place, many influencers on the app seemed to be brought to tears. But were they overreacting? We left it up to Plymouth South to decide.
I think that influencers on TikTok that have TikTok as a job are allowed to be that upset because it's like their job.
I was actually finding a lot of comedy from it. Like, the James Charles post is what got me the most, and how he thought he cracked the code and hacked into the account. But I mean, I kind of understand where they're coming from because that's their sole income and that's why they're so upset about it. But I think that it was a little bit dramatized. I think it was pretty dramatic. I think that it's just an app. Like, we will survive without it. But people telling their secrets and everything was pretty funny. And then it's back. So here we are.
Get pranked. Although the app itself is back, that does not mean the talk of the ban is off the table.
But for now, all of America can go back to scrolling on their favorite app. Reporting for Panther TV, I'm Abby Marr.
And I'm Logan Kavicki.
Logan, you know what time it is.
If you're a student thinking about your future, the new option of tuition-free college in Massachusetts may interest you.
But how does this work? Here's Gavin Carrara to explain your options.
With college prices being astronomical these days, some have put off the idea of going altogether. But with Massachusetts state colleges making big changes, it's now an option for all. Over 42 million Americans face student loan debt, with the average amount being over $37,000. But now, college students in Massachusetts don't have to face debt. A new option provides tuition-free community college.
The change that has happened in just the last 2 years alone is that community college in Massachusetts is now free for a lot of people. So initially, Mass Reconnect was implemented, and that was for people who were 25 and older with no degree from the past, who have lived in Massachusetts for at least a year. And that program brought in a ton of students. And then the end of this past July, it opened up to 18 and older, so now it's Mass Educate. Mass Educate is free community college for people who are 18 and older with no bachelor's degree, who have lived in Massachusetts for at least a year. And that's really been the biggest change, is just making community college even more accessible.
Gretchen Lynch works in the admissions office at Cape Cod Community College, where people are taking advantage of this new opportunity.
I know our enrollment has pretty much quadrupled compared to numbers before. So even though a lot of people were taking advantage of community college in the past, those numbers have basically quadrupled since free community college was implemented.
Lynch recently visited Plymouth South to share information about free community college with students.
It's just something that needs to be shared more often, is that community college, and us specifically, we're accredited under the same standards in the United States as other schools. So the first 2 years you would do at community college is essentially the same as the first 2 years you would be doing anywhere else. So doing 2 years with us for little to no cost, and even free now, is a huge opportunity, because you would do your 2 years with us, transfer to another school, do 2 years there to get your bachelor's, and you've essentially cut your tuition in half.
Students we talked with say they're happy to have the opportunity to experience college without the heavy price tag.
It's useful for me, well, financially, obviously, because I don't want to have a bunch of debt by the end of my education experience, because I plan on getting my MD and becoming a doctor. So without that, it would definitely be a whole lot of money. I think me and my dad did the calculations out of if I was going to go to UMass Dartmouth and qualified for that, and plus whatever medical school, it was close to $500,000 in loans that I'd have to apply for.
So eventually I wanted to get into UMass Amherst, and I want to go into Eisenberg School of Business. And what community college, Cape Cod Community College specifically, what that allows me to do is it allows me to take 2 years of the most basic courses to get yourself ready for going into a more serious school. So for example, it helps me get my science credits that I'm not very good at. It helps me get my math credits done that I wouldn't necessarily be able to do at another college. But this gives me the opportunity to get the credits I need done and allows me to focus on what I want to do in my career.
Massachusetts isn't the only one providing free community college, with 34 other states with similar decisions.
It was successful in a lot of other states, so I'm just grateful that Massachusetts was able to take advantage of an opportunity like that as well.
Hopefully this sheds some light on the usefulness of community college and how it can be beneficial for you in multiple ways. Reporting for Panther TV, I'm Gavin Carrara.
If you can't go the free tuition route, scholarships are another option to cut down on costs, if you have the talent.
Here at Plymouth South, we have 2 star runners who are finding themselves with discounted tuition to compete at the Division I level.
Let's head over to Evan Anderson in sports now for more.
After a great running career here at Plymouth South, 2 student athletes will be running Division I at Stonehill College next year. Noah Brilliant and Sophia Adams have proven themselves as top track athletes throughout high school. This gave them the opportunity to run in college together. Even with track being a major part of high school for them, Noah and Sophia may not have seriously thought about going D1.
It has a big connotation with it that you're a major athlete. So pursuing something at that level is definitely a goal that I had. The big important thing for me was education itself, though. To position myself in a good setting for the rest of my life, that's kind of going to be the big deal for me. No matter what school you go to, D1, D2, or D3, you're all going to get good education. And that's what's going to matter in the long run.
I honestly didn't expect to go D1. I knew it would be a challenge for me, and I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do in college, but I'm really excited to be running D1 and be challenged.
Academics were a priority, but how much of an impact did track have in their decision?
Track definitely did make a major impact in where I wanted to go because I did want to run in college. But the first thing that kind of was important for me was the education itself and the location. Stonehill is a really good school, and it's close to home too. So I'm not going to be too far from my family, which that's a big thing.
So at first, I didn't really know if I was going to do track. I thought maybe I'd just go to school for academics. But then when it came down to my decision, I decided track really just keeps me on a schedule and it keeps me in line.
Taking advantage of opportunities is important to athletic success, but being flexible and open to new opportunities can have benefits beyond athletics.
I didn't expect to do both track and cross country. I thought I was just going to do track because cross country is not my best strength. And so on the call with them, I had mentioned just doing track, and they actually told me that I would be having a scholarship for both.
Making the switch to collegiate sports is certainly more challenging and competitive, but knowing your teammates can make the transition easier, especially with Noah's brother Dylan already being there.
It's definitely going to be competitive. We are brothers, so that's kind of what we're going to do. We're going to compete, but at the end of the day, we are teammates. It's kind of working together to be like the best that we could be. It's going to make the transition to college so much easier.
I'm really excited to know someone going into it, and Noah and I have been on the same track team since freshman year, so they're really good, and Dylan's there too, so I know a couple people there.
Competing in college sports can be the experience of a lifetime. If you find yourself on the track at Stonehill College, you might just see some familiar faces. Reporting for Panther TV Sports, I'm Evan Anderson.
That's very exciting news. Thanks, Evan.
Now to this month's Tech Talk. Angel Chimick takes us across the hall where we find a program preparing the next generation of electricians.
Welcome back to Tech Talk. Today we are showing you our electrical program, where a new generation of electricians are getting a jump start to a promising career path. Here at Plymouth South, this program equips students with real-world skills, from wiring systems to troubleshooting circuits, giving them an edge in both the job market and their higher education pursuits.
My first impressions of this tech was my freshman year, and at first I was definitely nervous because it's more male-dominated and it can be a little nerve-wracking being the only one like me. But I've learned to love being in a tech with all guys, and I've built a family with all of them, so it's a lot of fun.
This hands-on course is more than just learning how to wire a light switch. Students here are gaining skills they need to succeed in a growing industry.
My first impressions of this tech was it was pretty difficult because I couldn't even strip a wire when I first began, but over time I overcame that and was able to strip wire and do all sorts of new things, so it was a really nice experience.
For many, this program is their first step towards the careers in electrical work, construction, or even tech industries like automation and robotics. And with the demand for skilled trades on the rise, these students are stepping into a world of opportunity.
I would definitely recommend this tech to students because it sets you up for success more than, well, not more than any other shop, but I know that I'm going to be successful and I know that I'm going to be okay for the rest of my life. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this shop to other students.
My favorite part about this tech is the people I meet, the connections I make along with this tech, and all the things I get to learn.
As the demand for skilled trade continues to grow, programs like this one are playing a crucial role in preparing the next generation of electricians, technicians, and engineers. Reporting for Panther TV, I'm Angel Chimick.
In the spirit of the month of February, we've been thinking about Valentines.
If you're planning to ask someone to be your Valentine, here's some tips on what not to do.
So when I was in 5th grade, somebody asked me to be their Valentine and gave me flowers and chocolate, and I never answered.
Getting rejected on Valentine's Day, and then asking her out 2 weeks later, and she said yes.
All right, so this was back in freshman year. I was kind of talking to this one girl, and I thought it was going super well. And for Valentine's Day, we had a shared Spotify playlist, and I kind of thought it would be a good idea to ask her out on Valentine's Day through that Spotify title. And she didn't answer me all day, and by the time she finally saw it, it was way too late. And she basically just kind of shut me down at that night, so that was great.
I got proposed to with a ring pop.
One time I got someone candy, but they were actually allergic to it.
That's all for Panther TV. Thanks for joining us.
Have a great day, Plymouth South.